All right, welcome everyone. We are officially going to get started. I've met everyone here, but my name is Brooke Bollinger. I am Director of Graduate Studies for the College of Education. And the essence of my role is to be a point of connection for you from the time that you apply until the time that you graduate. I am often a liaison for you with the grad school to help as you're graduating, some of that verification paperwork. As you enter the university, I can be a resource for questions and answers about the application process. Everyone here obviously is a current grad student within College of Ed. And so for your sake, as current graduate students, we have created this webinar series so that we can provide to you throughout the semester webinars on key topics related to student success, whether it be academic tools or whether it be tips for student life and navigating life as a grad student. Some of you were with me previously for our very first webinar of the fall, which was focused on tools for online research. And so Laura Gleason, who is here with us again tonight, led a wonderful presentation on the online research tools of the university. And I know for many students who perhaps do not live locally, that was a very beneficial and helpful reminder of, even being a remote student, the tools available to everyone. And so tonight we are focused on the thesis and dissertation procedures and timelines of Idaho State University. In a minute, I will introduce our special guests, but just to remind you of upcoming webinars, we will have a presentation in a week on October 12th. We have a research lab out of the University of Northern Colorado, and we will have a panel of technicians and staff members from that research lab called RCL, who will be with us so that those of you working on a dissertation in the future will be working on a dissertation can have a tutorial of that system, which will be yet another resource to you on the academic success side. In November, we're going to make it a bit more informal, and we will have a webinar focused on how to navigate life balance at the grad level. And that is going to be open to our prospective grad students as well as current grad students. We will have several current grad students and myself there to speak to that life balance at the grad level, because we recognize that whether you are single or whether you have people in your life for whom you are responsible, many of you are working, and life balance is a frequent question that we receive. All of us who are staff members receive about the student experience, how to navigate all of that. So on November 15th, we invite you back for that presentation. In December, we will have a stress relief activity, both in a hybrid format. So we'll have activities online for stress relief for our grad students, but we will also have a holiday social here at the College of Ed in December. And we hope to see as many of our grad students in person as possible in December for that. So that is the trajectory of where we are going this fall semester with our webinar series. But as I mentioned, tonight is focused on the procedures and timelines for those who will need to be writing a thesis or dissertation. So our special guests tonight include, and I'll introduce her first, Dr. Tracy Cullum, the Associate Dean of the Graduate School. She is waving at you. We also have Catherine Wilson, a graduate program manager within the College of Ed, and also a frontline person for all of our College of Ed grad students. And the graduate school team that is here will be speaking to the processes directly associated with dissertations and theses. Laura Gleason is back with us from the Obler Library, and she is actually here to dive a little more deeply, give you an overview of a very specific thesis or dissertation writing research tool that she will dive into. And that's a little bit different than our last presentation. She'll go a bit more deeply into that one system. So that is the trajectory of our night together. We plan to offer a Q&A period in a moment. But I am going to stop talking, and without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cullum to lead us into their presentation.
Yeah, so hey everybody, I'm going to add a few other things to your calendar that Brooke just added. So Catherine, I'm going to show a few things and then I'll hand it off to you for some timelines here. Couple of things going on in the graduate school that is helpful for you all to know is one, we have our third annual book drive going on right now. It ends at the end of October. You can find that information on our graduate school website. It's under About and under Grad School Gives, which is our community service initiative. And then we have our book drive. Our goal of the book drive is to donate 1,000 books to our local school systems in Pocatello that will help represent every little reader, kindergarten through 4th grade, in our school system. So we have a more diverse selection of books for them to read from. So we would love for you to share that information. As graduate students, we know your funds are sometimes limited, so you may not be able to contribute directly, but sharing is also caring. So that would be great. Another area that I want to make sure you all are very aware about is our 3-minute thesis competition. This competition is in November. It's November 10th. It is available for any graduate student, master's, doctoral, online, or in person. We will have Zoom candidates as we did last year if people select Zoom as their choice of presentation. If you go onto our website or just look up isu.edu 3-minute thesis, or go to student events on our graduate school website under 3MT, you can get more information about that. We have some insider sessions. There's one going on Wednesday and then again on the 14th to learn more about what that means. But essentially, it is a 3-minute competition. You're timed, and you can discuss in that 3 minutes any type of research, any type of scholarly work, anything that you're doing at the graduate level. It does not have to be a thesis or a dissertation. And if you go down here, there's some reasons why you should participate. But I'm going to tell you one of the biggest reasons people are now participating is this right here. $2,000 for first place. And it goes down. So you do not have to be in an advanced stage of your scholarly work. You do not have to have full results and outcomes. You can be in the gathering phase. You can be in the data analysis phase, whatever area you want to be in. So I encourage you to come to one of our insider sessions under What is 3MT, join us there, or email or chat with Catherine or myself, and we can give you more information on that. But we do have Zoom participants too. So had to give that little plug because we love the 3-minute thesis. Is our premier event of the year, and we definitely would love more College of Education students. So spread the word there with your friends. Okay. With that, I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Catherine, you want to start with some dates and deadlines before I go into submission?
Absolutely.
All right.
So we're just going to navigate over to that screen. There we go. All right. So we're just back over at the grad school website. This really is just a good go-to resource as you figure out your dates, your deadlines, the information that you need, and where to go to ask the questions. So we're going to start out with the dates and deadlines. So we start on this main homepage, and right here, we're going to go to the graduate catalog. This has a lot of really specific information about all of your programs that you're interested in, but it also has the timelines. So right over here on the left is general information and policies. Just right below that, dates, deadlines, procedures. So we can start there. And if you scroll down, this is updated every year, so you know that the dates are going to be what you need. And it has just sort of that basic information. It has your final program of study, which is really the first step that lets us know that you're getting close to graduating. All of that information is up until that point is largely between you and your advisor and your department. But once you've sent us your final program of study, then we know to keep a lookout. for your information. And the dates are dependent on the semester that you want to graduate. So they're over here in this right-hand column. A key guideline is the final program of study is always due at the end of the semester before the one you want to graduate in. So if you were wanting to graduate in December, your final program of study was due to us at the end of the summer semester. If you're hoping to graduate in spring, hopefully you're working with your advisor now to complete your final program of study. And that process we'll get into a little bit more when we look at a different portion of the website. But that's a general guideline to keep in mind for your final program of study. Another portion, depending on your program, is the comprehensive exams. That's something to keep in mind if you're a doctoral student, and those deadlines vary depending on your program. So again, keep in good contact with your advisor. I'm sure that Brooke would also be a resource for knowing when those things need to be done internally. The next thing you need to make sure that you're doing if you're preparing to graduate is you need to actually apply for graduation. You won't populate on all of our lists of people to keep track of if you haven't applied for graduation. So you want to make sure again that you keep in mind those deadlines and dates. But if for some reason you miss it, still go in, apply for graduation, but then send me an email and let me know, hey, I applied for graduation, but it looks like I missed my window. Is there any wiggle room? Oftentimes, if you've done the steps beforehand that you should have done by that point, there might be some wiggle room to get you in and be able to move your graduation to when you were hoping to graduate. So check the deadlines, keep those in mind. But if for some reason you miss something, oftentimes there's a little room that we can help you out. And then the next deadline, just right here, is your thesis and dissertation information. So just again, general guideline, your thesis or dissertation should be submitted to your committee about 2 weeks before you have your oral defense. That's so that they can look it over. They can perhaps come to you with any questions, and so that you're ready and that they're ready for when you actually have your defense with them. You want to make sure that you schedule that again by the deadlines presented here, which are dependent upon the semester in which you intend to graduate. And we'll navigate to a different portion and I'll show you where to do that part. But then also, after you have done your oral defense, you've had your discussion with your committee, then you have about 2 weeks after that to make any changes and edits that your committee recommended before you submit it to us. And at that point, you'll be working with right now with Dr. Collum about any potential formatting corrections that need to be made. So that's sort of our general overview page of deadlines, procedures, things like that. But I'm going to navigate back to, and I just want to make sure I don't lose the share. So we'll navigate back to this front portion, and we're going to go to another way that is going to be helpful for you to get that information is if you go up here to this current students tab, and you go down to graduation information. And this is another place that has sort of condensed that information for you. So it gives you general suggestions about how to be prepared, any information of if you are wanting to transfer a credit into your program, any petitions you might need, that's all listed here. And then there's a link here also to that dates and deadlines information. If you don't remember the path we took together from the graduate catalog, that's totally fine. It's right here too. But now we're going to go over to this apply to graduate tab. And as we're under there, it has that information about your final program of study that we kind of mentioned. And then it gives you a portal to submit that. You might submit it yourself, but it also is very likely something that when you're working with your advisor, they will collate with you, and then they will send it through the department to do that. So that might be something they have you do. It might be something that they do. It just depends a little bit on your department. So just, again, build a good relationship with your advisor and they can help you through that process. So as we're looking through here, let's see, we're going to jump down to, we're going to go to, I forgot what I wanted to look at next. I'm sorry. Let's see, apply to graduate. We're going to go over to thesis and dissertations. So the next part that's really important when you're looking for when you're preparing just your mindset for working on your thesis or dissertation is this tab right here. This link goes to the thesis or dissertation manual. And I'm going to click there. Hopefully, I don't play with the screen share very much. Can you now see a thesis and dissertation manual? Okay, perfect. So from here, this manual isn't the beefiest thing. So you'll be okay to navigate through it. But the information that it presents is all about how to format your information for your thesis or dissertation. So we don't, when you've submitted your thesis or dissertation to us, we're not going to read through it for content. That's what your committee does. We're looking to make sure that it is formatted correctly and that it will be to the standard that ISU expects of the thesis and dissertations. So before you submit, that 2-week window between your committee and between when you submit it to us is really when you need to read the manual carefully and go through and update all of those pieces so that you know when you submit it to us that it's going to be the format that it needs to be. But we do have that window so that if you get requests to change certain things, you have that wiggle room. So the dates and deadlines that you saw there really are to make sure that, that you have the time to do what you need to do, but also that we can complete the things we need to in a timely manner so that you get to graduate on time, really. So all of those deadlines are really important. So, but Dr. Collum is one of the people, is currently the person who reviews all of those pieces and will let you know those suggestions. So from here, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Collum to wrap it up.
All right, we're gonna actually we'll stop sharing yours.
Oh yeah.
And
you don't want to just stare at my screen the whole time?
Maybe, because we're going to go back to the manual.
Oh, okay.
I'll navigate it a little bit more where I want. The table of contents in the manual is set up to where if you click on an item in the table of contents, which actually there's a huge misspelling there as I'm looking at it. We'll fix that. It's been there for a few years and nobody's brought that up until I just now saw it in front of everybody on the webinar. That's how life works, right? So if you click on any of the table of content items, it'll take you directly to that page. And that is the hyperlinking way that you can do that in Microsoft Word and set up your automated table of contents. So there are some pieces in this manual that I can tell you are very common mistakes that get sent back for editing fixes. So when you get your edits back from submission, there will be some options in there and it might say, read the manual on the title page. So if you need to come in here and go to the title page, you're going to go to the title page and read what that says so that way you can get it correctly. There's also sample pages linked in here that are in our appendices in the back of the manual. And so one of the things that comes up with a title page, so we'll just go to this one for example, Jane Student means you. That is your name. Believe it or not, we have students who write Jane Student and then put their own name. That's just a catch-all. So you put your name there. Another aspect that gets a little bit complicated is this area right here. You are fulfilling a degree requirement for your degree, which for some of the students in this webinar today, it's a doctorate in instructional design, right? But you are in a department, so make sure you know what department you're in and which degree you are getting, not the major, but your degree. And then Idaho State University for your state. And then here, this is just a preference option. So if you were graduating in December, you would put December 2022, or you could put fall 2022 because you're graduating at the end of fall. So don't put both spring and May. It's just your preference of how you put it down. You don't have to put both. That tends to be a piece. Another item that comes up is sometimes people put the wrong date. So maybe you assume you're graduating in fall, but you're really behind on the deadline. So really it's going to be spring. So you need to make sure that whatever you put for your graduation application, and then also I'll show you ProQuest, what you're putting in ProQuest, where we house all of our thesis dissertations, all the dates match. And that's what we double check too, because this is going to a viewable public area, and we want to make sure all the information is accurate for you. There are some areas within the manual that give you some insights on resources to go look at, style guides. Many of you are using APA in your departments. If you're not, that is perfectly acceptable. Use whatever style guide is given to you all. Make sure you're using it accurately. So there's some links here to help you find some. And the library is an excellent source for many of those things as well. Also within this manual, it gives you kind of a guide on the roles and responsibilities that you have as a student, what your committee chair has, as well as your committee members. And then your graduate faculty representative. This is a part that many students just don't know because you've not done a graduate degree before. Many of you have not. And so this is just a helpful guide to get you in tune with the roles and responsibilities that everybody has, so you're on the same page. Your committee chair may change them a little bit, but you can use these as starter conversation if you're confused or need more communication or need to understand something else fully. And the big piece for you all as responsibilities is this 2 weeks notice to your committee before your defense to allow them time to review it. This is really important to faculty because they have more than you in a defense. They have several defenses. They're still teaching classes. They have other obligations as well. So you want to give them enough time to read the document you have finalized. Even though some of them have been working with you along the way, having that final product gives them a good sense of edits they might have, suggestions they might have, or if you're really ready for a defense. It could be that they think you might need a little bit more time and you guys need to discuss moving your defense date back a little bit just to finish some final touches to make it more of a professional document in defense for you as a student. So every committee chair and committee person, their best interest is for you to have a successful defense. So that is one piece of advice I do have as far as getting ready for your defense mode. If they suggest that you move it back, it's probably in your best interest to move it back to allow yourself more time to have a better final product. So keep that in mind too as you're scheduling out those defenses. There are the summary of procedures here. It's very similar to the dates and deadlines Catherine went over, but we have it in our manual as well, just to help keep everything going, because we know sometimes you're looking in one place and you get stuck on one thing. But this manual is a great piece to start with even now. If you are starting the work on your dissertation, looking at these now to get your margins in line, your paginations in line, your font, even setting up your automated table of contents, having everything ready. And then when you start working on those citation tools, making it easier for yourself. Work smarter, not harder. That is the motto, okay? So keep that in mind. I say that all the time in the office. Got to work smarter. So keep this in mind. Take this from the beginning. The document order in this manual is very, very important. It'll tell you exactly what is required, what is applicable if it's relevant to you, and then other pieces, and the order that it goes in. It also tells you the pagination it goes in. So some folks will start their page numbers at page 1, and they need to be Roman numerals. They need to be lowercase. They put things out of order. And so we go by this document order to keep things consistent. And so ISU has a global front with all of our public facing thesis and dissertation. So this is also a very important piece of your area that you want to review. There's more details as you go through the manual and what each of those represent and what they all mean. There's also some contact numbers in here. Your faculty should know who you contact for human subjects or animal welfare research and so on. But if you need it, it's also in here. There's different pages that are optional, like your dedication and acknowledgement pages. We don't dive too far into those. Sometimes I'll question, you know, maybe you capitalize something in one page, but not another. Do you want it to be consistent? I do not have a preference. Graduate school does not have a preference. I'm just asking to make sure it's how you want it to be seen. So read through the manual. That is the best advice I have for you, is to read through the manual. And then I'm going to show you what to do after that. So let me find the website that I really want. Okay. So this one. Okay. Where we were at with under current students and you were under graduation information, there was a tab there that is thesis dissertations where you can find the manual. And then there's the submit thesis dissertation box. That's going to take you to this page here where we now use ProQuest. We started using ProQuest about a year and a few months ago. This makes your thesis and dissertations more searchable to the general public. And we're not hidden behind a wall or anything of that nature. So there are specific instructions on this page on how to label your document, what all you're going to need. It is highly advisable that you read this page. 9 times out of 10, what you're going to forget is something that is actually on this page. And my edit response is, hey, go read about the supplemental documents. 8 times out of 10, somebody says, hey, I read that page. There wasn't anything about supplemental documents. If you notice here, it says supplemental documents. So make sure you read these and know exactly what you need to submit, because you're going to do that in ProQuest. All right. So if I scroll up here, you're going to go to register at ProQuest, and you're going to put in your information about you. And so right now I already have something in here, so I'm going to continue with my submission. It's very self-explanatory. Don't be overwhelmed by it. But you have instructions here on the left, and if you go through each tab on the left, it'll walk you through exactly what it is that you need. And it tells you, here are things to have on hand: a PDF copy of your thesis or dissertation. You need your abstract, which should be in your thesis or dissertation. Optional supplementary forms. That was on that web page I just showed you. Those are like your committee signature pages, your authorized signature pages. So one reason that we separate those is your public facing document. We do not want your signature in that public facing document. So we have your signature pages that have handwritten signatures on them as a separate document just for archiving and records management on our side, so we know everything is complete. But in your public facing one, they're going to be just typed up pages with no signatures. So that's what you're submitting in this area. But as you go through each of these steps, you're reading through it. There's some pieces in here about delaying your work. Some people have data that is pretty sensitive that they need to wait until a publication comes out, until their faculty member has a publication come out. So they need to delay. You can put that information in here. There's some other pieces in here about repository. Your contact information should go in here. Not only does this help us identify who you are, it helps us contact you if we need additional information to approve your document. One of the big pieces that's pretty important for you is about my dissertation or thesis. This is where you're putting in all your details. And this is where you can copy and paste. You know, you put in your title, you put in your abstract, and then you answer these questions down here. The degree date here, the month and year, this is the one that I look at. Does it match your title page? And does it match your graduation application? All three need to match, or we need to update something. So if you already know that ahead of time, that's where you contact Catherine and we'll kind of get those things worked out. The degree awarded, you'll do a search in here for what your degree is. So, instructional technology for the few students here in that program, and then which department. So we've built these out for ISU specifically, so you should find them. You also have additional subject categories that you can select yourself, and those are numbered and geared out by ProQuest, so that way they're searchable. Your keywords here, technically you could use the ones that are already in your abstract because we require you to put keywords on your abstract. So you can copy and paste those here. Your chair, your committee chair, and then your committee members would all go here as well. And then you're going to upload your documents, your PDF, and then you're going to put in your supplemental files and any notes that you want. Sometimes people are graduating and they're like, I'm not going to check my ISU email me here. Or here's my phone number because I'm going to be, you know, without Wi-Fi service, whatever it might be. So you can put notes here. It has nothing to do with your submission, but it's more for us to communicate for the background of approving your document. And then you can order copies and do some other pieces, and then you'll finally submit your documentation. So what happens when you submit in ProQuest, when you get everything submitted, we get a notification and then we review it within a week or so, depending on the level of submissions at certain times of year. And with that, we review it and you get an email back that says we are requesting small revisions or large revisions, or you are fully approved and you have nothing else to do. That's the best email, right? So minor revisions, we will list out what you need to do. Minor revisions are your graduation date on your title page needs to be updated. Minor revisions are, you know, you went out of your margins. Why don't you turn this one page to landscape so we can see your entire graph without you having to shorten it? You're allowed to do that. You're missing something that's out of order. Your page numbers are wrong. We don't have keywords on your abstract. Things that you can update. If you have major revisions because you never looked at the manual, you never read the instructions, we're most likely going to try to copy your chair so they can help you work on your document to be a better fitting document. That doesn't happen very often. That's very, very rare that we really have to do major revisions. So by the time you get to that point, they're pretty much done. Once you submit, you go back into ProQuest, you update your edits, you update your details, you put a new file in, we see the new file, we review it again. If we are all clear and approved, you get the email that says you're approved. We've recently started copying the chairs of the committees on that approval email, so that way they know you're done as well. And then we work on changing your grade, and that'll all be in that email to tell you you're done. If you still owe us supplemental documents, you won't be approved. If you still owe us, for you doctoral students, you also will be submitting let me go out of here. You're going to submit your there's a survey for doctoral students. What's it called? The SED certification of completion. So you'll have that, which is on our web link as well. So you'll have an extra document as a supplemental document. So all of those pieces have to be in before we can actually approve your document. Once we approve it, we submit it to publish openly to ProQuest, and then they work on publishing it themselves. And then you're in a Google search. So if you do Google Scholar searches and people look up your title, they look up any of your keywords, you can show up in there, and then you're pretty much published that way. So end of story, easy peasy. The hard part is the 2 to 3 years to get to that point. That's the hard part. But hopefully that's pretty much the lowdown. Follow the manual, follow the dates, follow the instructions, just read, and you will be on board. Any questions?
I actually have a couple of planted questions that if we could start with these. If you could share with the group your best advice for forming the committee. I know you talked about the committee chair, but the formulation of committee, how do you go about that?
Yeah, so sometimes that's a little complicated if you are an online student. I totally recognize that. First of all, you need to start with your chair. Your chair should be somebody in your department. And some of you might be a little limited because I know that we have some faculty who are on a short staff, like they're short. There's only a few to choose from. So hopefully you can ask somebody who has a little bit more of a vested interest in the same thing you do. I would start with your chair and then ask them, who do you think I should ask to be on my committee? For one thing, they know what other interests are for other faculty members and what might align with you, but also they know the statistical analysis expertise of some of those folks. So they know if you were trying to do qualitative or quantitative, who might be a good fit for that. And they also know who they work really well with. And that's always a plus. You want your committee to work well together, right? And then you're going to need an outside committee member. I know one of the toughest things I feel like for grad students, especially if you're first gen and you really don't know how to go talk to other faculty, is finding someone outside of your area. So having your chair start that conversation with maybe a short list of people outside the area that they might know that have an interest similar to what you're studying or might be able to provide some good value to what you're looking into. And then you can approach it that way. And you could use them as the reference, right? You can say, you know, dear Brooke, I was just speaking to Tracy and Tracy suggested I ask you, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm hoping to do. Would you have the time to be on my committee and serve in this capacity? You know, suck up to them. I heard that you're really good at this. So that would probably be the best place to start. If you find that you're hitting a wall, you can call our office and we can kind of talk you through some options too in the graduate school.
A quick question. Do they all have to be at Idaho State or can it be like someone I work with?
Yeah,
Okay.
Great question. So we can actually do ad hoc appointments if it's for a one-time student. And what would happen is your chair would actually send the request to either myself or our dean to request that they be allowed to serve on your committee. Okay. Another option that could happen is your department. So let's say David Coughlin or John Curry, for you, Kelly, they would submit an allied faculty nomination for that person. So that way they might be able to serve even on others or maybe be a little bit more integrated into the system with the ISU process. So absolutely. We try to get the chair has to be at ISU and at least 2 of your committee members would be ISU and then an outside committee member, but one of those could at least be from anywhere. As long as they're qualified, they need to have a PhD, they need to have a doctorate.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy, one more planted question. We had a student last week who's not here tonight, asked a very good question about any conflict of interest in choosing a research topic. And I didn't know if you could speak to, because the student was asking me, could they select a research question for their dissertation or thesis that is relevant to their current professional work that would both fulfill a work obligation as well as their research topic and their writing topic? How would you advise somebody with that, any conflict of interest associated with that?
I think if there's a conflict of interest, it should get figured out within the IRB, and that would be the line to figure out where it crosses. But absolutely, if you can dovetail projects, do it. Otherwise, your life is going to be out of life-work balance, right? So anything that's work and research that you can dovetail on each other and cross over those lines, it will just make your life simpler. But I would suggest talking through IRB, the Institutional Review Board, about anything that might be a conflict. And especially if you're doing surveys and they're involving people, they're going to flush that out anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much directly with it. Your chair will also have that advice, and then IRB. So I think by the time you actually get going, it'll be flushed out and you won't have to worry about it. It's a good question.
Thank you, Tracy. And one more question. So we talk a lot about the timeline, the clock, the dissertation clock can run out. Can you speak to that for this group?
Yeah. So for doctorate students, you have your comprehensive exams. The term that you finish those comprehensive exams, you then have 5 years to complete your dissertation. Once you hit the 5 years, your clock has run out. We have few exceptions that we can do with extraordinary circumstances. So we had COVID, right? We did have a few students who had their research kind of shoved to the side. Their participants were no longer there because they were not in classrooms or in their place of work or whatever that might have been to collect data. So they needed to wait. And then there might have been some other health related exceptions that we could extend time. But in general, you have 5 years. Master's students, if you've got any of those looking for their thesis, you actually have 8 years from the time you start to get done with everything. So regardless of if you have comps or not, it's an 8-year timeline in order to complete your master's degree.
Thank you for that. That is a common question we are asked. How long is the time frame? And so thank you for speaking to that, because I think it's important for the group to know that yes, there are exceptions made, but in general, it is a very important timeline to achieve.
Yeah, and that timeline for doc students is also to make sure that the knowledge base that you're carrying is still relevant when you're done. You don't want it to be so outdated that you don't know what's happening out in the world, and especially with certain programs. I mean, there's some that are very technical based, and technology is changing all the time. So if you're graduating 10 years after you took a specific class and learned this tool, are you still up to speed 10 years later? And that's really up to your faculty to determine and help with those exceptions if they support it. Now, your faculty have to support exceptions. The graduate school will not do anything if your faculty don't support it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Those were my questions. Yvette, Kelly, others, do you have other questions for Tracy?
Yeah, I had a question. I don't know if I should meet with someone specific after this, or if it's something you can go into, but this is my first term. And how does the whole decision-making process happen? Do you have to get the topic approved? And it just, where do you start?
Kelly, who's your advisor? Is it John or is it David?
David.
I
think I was told that I probably would end up switching to John because of the area more of where I tend to go to.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you are still with David, either way, I would start with either one of them and just start having those meetings of flushing out what it is you're thinking you want to do. And typically your faculty chair will help you narrow it down. One of the common things that happen with doc students, that happens with every single person, they start broader, even though you think this is a really narrow topic. It's not. They're narrow it down because you can't save the world. You have to get it narrowed down to one baseline. And so John or David will help you determine that and then help you build some suggestions on how to move forward. What kind of review of literature you're going to need to start that research. You guys will talk through what kind of statistical analysis, if any, that you're going to do, and then try to flesh out who might actually be on your committee related to those things and figure out what your actual project is going to look like. I have seen so many varied projects come out of that program that I can't even guess what they would help you figure out. Laura's shaking her head. She's seen it too. Like, it's incredible what you guys do in this program. So I would start with them and just start having those conversations. I do suggest, as a doctoral student, you take the initiative and the stance that you are in charge of your education. Those faculty are not going to chase you down to ask you when you want to meet. They're not going to chase you down asking for a draft. You take that initiative and responsibility. And if you know you would like a meeting every 2 or 3 weeks just to kind of springboard ideas, ask. They might not have that much time. They might, but it's okay to ask. And then to keep you on track. What's going to keep you on track to make sure you meet deadlines? And is it, I'm going to promise to send them a chapter, every 4 months. What's your motivation to get done? Because their motivation is definitely to see you be successful, but they don't have time to chase you down. So you take that initiative and responsibility to be accountable to yourself, and that'll help you be done in a timely manner. Students who do not, who kind of wait around, they are not done in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Tracy?
Well, Brooke, too, if you, I know you're going to send this out or put it on your website, whatever it is that, however you're going to communicate that. If people do have questions, they can surely email Catherine or myself. If you get them and you forward them to us, whatever might work. And it doesn't have to be anytime soon. Just when you're starting it in the spring and next fall or something, and you have questions, just shoot them over.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. And Dr. Cullum, Catherine, thank you both for being with us. And yes, I will absolutely forward your contact details to the group, and we will be in touch. And as we turn over to Laura Gleason from the library, Dr. Cullum and Catherine, thank you for being with us. Feel free to stay and learn what she is talking about with Zotero, but otherwise, have a great night and thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. All right, Laura, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. I just want to qualify our time first. Do I have 10 minutes?
I would say if you want to go through your full explanation,
Okay.
if those who are with us tonight can stay and for any of that, that's great. I will keep recording even if people need to jet away and to leave. So I'll leave it up to you, Laura. Thank you.
Okay. I'll at the most probably stick to about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you for joining. My name is Laura Gleason, and I am at University Library. Specifically, my office is in the Obler Library building on the Pocatello campus. But as you know, we have satellite locations, maybe you don't know, but in Idaho Falls and Meridian. And the majority of what we do as far as helping students is now online. So I'm going to share my whole screen, if you don't mind, because I'm going to be jumping back and forth between windows. And I want to show you, we'll start with the library website. Okay, hold on one moment. I actually need to share the screen. Oh. There we go. Okay. And Brooke, if you don't mind, I am going to leave the chat. Is it all right if I have you monitor the chat window? I am terrible at noticing chats during my presentations.
Absolutely. I'll keep an eye.
Thank you. So you can get to the library website. You probably already know this, but just as a refresher, from any isu.edu website, you can click on the book for library, and it brings you to isu.edu library. And here's our main page. At the top here, we have contact librarians. So I'm going to give you a little taster of a reference manager that I particularly adore. It's called Zotero. So I will be talking about that today. And the library supports this open software, and either myself or through Ben Bullen. So I'm going to show you how to make appointments with us individually, because we work with students, graduate level students, doctorate level students, particularly in the health sciences as well, while they are working on their larger projects with this particular software called Zotero. So you can meet with us by going to Contact a Librarians. Here on the page, go to Meet with the Librarian. I am the Student Success Librarian, so I'm right here at the top, and this is my schedule button. The nice thing about these schedule buttons are that they connect straight to our Google Calendar, so you will only see times that are actually available for that person. So I am here, and you can find other librarians per topic. We have Ben, he has his hands on a lot of things, but he is particularly good at health science. His title is a health science librarian. So even in health education, he's over here and he has the same button. There are 2 health science librarians, so you might want to make sure that you click on Ben. Kim also is available, but like I said, Ben and I do most of the reference work for Zotero. Okay, so from our library website, I just want to just real quickly bounce off what the graduate office was explaining about ProQuest and your dissertation theses being searchable. In fact, they are searchable on our library website as well, on the databases tab of our center search box here. If you click databases and scroll down to dissertations, and I'm sorry if this makes your eyes buggy, we have over 300 databases, so it can get a lot. But right here, these dissertations and theses from previous to 2014 are here, but the ProQuest button is right here, and you can go into ProQuest and find dissertations. So it is actually searchable through the library website, as well as just on the wild open web. All right, now we're going to be talking about reference managers. We have, instead of doing a handout, I have a web page built for you. And the way to get to that is using the subject guides tab here on the center search box. Just click on that. And this one's easy. Just scroll that bar all the way down to the bottom and we hit Zotero. And I have a little pronunciation here for Zotero. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger on the screen. And I have a short video queued up for you from a previous librarian who, how can I say this, turned me on to Zotero and all of its bells and whistles. But she has a really nice little introduction about it, because we were talking about your timeline and how much you know, the manual for doing your dissertations and theses, how particular it is and how it needs to be formatted correctly. Well, Zotero is going to help you with that timeline. It's going to save you a ton of time in gathering sources, in organizing those sources, and also in the writing process. So I'm going to give you this quick introduction, and then we will.
Whether you're writing a short research paper or working on a dissertation, it's essential that you keep what you find organized, and you need to be able to properly cite what you find. So how can Zotero help? We will show you in 3 quick steps: search, select, and cite. And this is just a short video to give you a taste of how awesome Zotero is. See the additional Zotero videos for details on how to install and use it. Step 1 to using Zotero is to search. This can be in a library database, the library catalog, or really anywhere online. We're in an EBSCO database here called CINAHL, where I've searched on my topic and I've found a few articles I want to keep. Step 2 is to select. So then I click on the handy icon up here in the URL bar. It looks like a little folder. And then I tell Zotero which articles I'd like to save. You can select all of them, or you can just select one at a time. And then click OK. Zotero will save them into a folder that I've created beforehand. It will also pull in a PDF copy of the article if it's available. Once the articles are in Zotero, I select the ones that I want to include in my reference list. Then I right-click, select Create Bibliography, select my citation style, Copy to Clipboard. Step 3 is to cite. So bring up your Word document or a PowerPoint or your Google Doc or wherever you need to include your references, and then click on the Paste button or Control V. There you are. It's not magic, it just looks that way.
Okay. It does feel like magic too, and I think you'll just really enjoy it. Let me get out of this full screen here.
If you think Zotero
Oh,
is right,
excuse me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so from the home page, if we go all the way down using the subject guides, all the way down to the bottom to Zotero, there's a web page that includes that video and also more information about Zotero, including other reference managers. Some people call them citation managers. Some people call them reference managers, but they help in the discovery process, in the gathering of information process, how to organize your research. I use them in the annotated bibliography process. And then also there's a cite and write feature where you can write with the Zotero plugin in Word or in Google Docs. If you're interested in other reference managers, at the bottom of this page, I have a citation manager comparisons guide for you. Some people prefer Mendeley. That's also very popular. Some people prefer EndNote. That is something that ISU also supports. It is not the full version of EndNote. The reason I prefer Zotero is it has more bells and whistles as far as saving the documents and making sure that the fields show up the way you want to. You can edit each field so that when you create your bibliography, it is correct in the way you wanted it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. And by the way, there are pages over here on the side about installing Zotero, how to do it. I have a Zotero basics. Again, I'm going to show you a few things, but if you want to review this, you can come into this page. And there is a page here about saving your citations, how to create bibliographies, and then how to organize your Zotero library. And then also you can, when you're working with your committee chair, you can have a shared library. And I will show that to you as well, where you can save resources in a shared folder. Maybe you want them to look at things ahead of time. All right, and then there's also the Cite as you write. Again, these are plugins for your word processing software, which may be Word, Google Docs. It can also do, I think it's called Ex Libris. I'm not sure about the name of that. Okay, so what is Zotero? Again, it's a citation manager, a reference manager, and it is something that you download to your computer, and it also lives in the cloud. So to get to it, you can go to zotero.org and you simply click the download button. Here, you would download the standalone, and you would also download your browsing connector. And why is this important? Well, like I said, we're going to go in here and just find an article really quickly. I'm going to do student. This is a really broad topic, so don't do this. Student success. I'm just going to search. All right. And I want to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Now, one way to narrow your topics are to use multiple keywords of the same thing. So synonyms inside each box. And this is just a quick, I'm just going to do this for the sake of time. We'll just narrow down those results. And I am using OneSearch, which is a combination. It encompasses about 70 of our databases. So I do have over 11 million results. Again, this would just be in the discovery phase. And this will work in any of your, any database that you want. And it's really hard to see, but up here in the browser, up on the upper right-hand corner, once you have download Zotero, there will be a Z, or it will look like a folder. And the reason it has a folder here is because I'm not in a particular item yet. So let's come down to this first one. So I'm going to click into the record for the item, and you'll see on the upper right hand side, the icon has changed to what looks like an individual paper, which is great. Let's pretend, for example, that I have skimmed this article. I'm in my discovery phase. Yes, I want to review this later. I don't have time right now. I can quickly save this to Zotero just by clicking on that in my browser. Great. So what does that look like? This is where I'm going to minimize my screen a little bit, and I'm going to pull up the Zotero on the standalone. So let me make this bigger. My goodness, that's so small. Okay, hold on just one moment. This is just not, for some reason, it's not allowing me to make it bigger. I hope you can see that. Can you see this okay? Font size bigger. Ah, there we go. All right. So this is what the standalone software looks like. What we just saved came into whatever folder I had available. So let's come here to Zotero Workshop. I'm going to do that one more time so that you can see it. So I'm going to save it. And it should have come in right here. Let's see if it named 2021 effective practices for student success. Let me try it for some reason, of course. Oh, Brooke, this is happening again, where my software doesn't work right what I want it to. Let me go to a different one real fast.
You were doing just fine. Appreciate it. We appreciate it.
You know, it's software. It doesn't want to work right when you're doing it. So if that happens, you can always update your software. It might be that my links are broken, but I am again in a record. I've chosen a particular folder, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I'm going to save it. There it is. I can see it's saving. And here it is showing up in my Zotero. So on the left-hand side, you can see that it's built with 3 frames. I have a frame here for folders. So you can see in my graduate studies, I had a folder for each class. And then within the class, I might have a folder for each project. So I don't use Zotero just for my dissertation or theses. I use it for a lot of different projects. But once you have a folder, you have the items within the folder that you have just saved. For example, that paper that we just saved to Zotero. And I believe it was this one. Once you click on the item in this list, you can go over to the right-hand side and see all the different fields that would be in the citation. And I'm going to give you a little hint here. Your right click is your friend. So maybe this needs to be in title case instead of sentence case. But in this case, we want it in sentence case for APA. So I would make sure that your spelling is correct. You have the date that the DOI was pulled in. I noticed that the volume and issues are missing. It's not perfect, and there is not any one citation manager that is perfect at pulling in the information. So I'm going to come here to the source and see if there is a volume and an issue number. For this particular one, there is not. Okay, and then another item, let's look and see if the PDF was automatically brought into this research. I can look down here and it did bring the PDF, which is wonderful. So now I can right click on this, create bibliography from just that item. I can choose my citation style. You can even upload a citation style from the zotero.org website. So I'm going to use APA. I'm going to click, oh, oops, I want to make sure that I create bibliography from item. Okay, I'm copying it to my clipboard. I have okay, and I have a practice document here. I'm going to come to my reference pages, my reference page. and I can click that right in and it will automatically be formatted. Of course, I can change it here, but this tells me if any of the fields were missing, then this would not be correct. So when I'm in the gathering phase, I quickly check to make sure that all the fields have been populated that I want. Now, a really cool feature about Zotero, besides using it just in our databases, you can use it on the open web, and I have some pages pulled up. For example, I have a publication here and it has the PDF attached. It's in IEEE. So again, I'm going to use this Save to Zotero. And it has pulled into my software right here. Great. And the nice thing that I can use about this right now is, oops, my little window popped. Hold on one second. I would double check to make sure that the volumes and issues were in there. I'm not seeing it. So I would correct that. But notice these other tabs right here. You can add a note about this article is about da, 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 da. This is how it supports da, 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 da. Or you could even add a note for a direct quote and put the page number in there just to help you know what you were using this resource for. That's how I use it as an annotated bibliography. Now, down below, you can create a group project. Group libraries, I have that on with more documentation, but for example, here I have one with a project that I was working on a team about badges for the library, and you can see we did a lot of research. So this can get as large as you want it to. You have 300 megabytes for free. This is an open source software. If you have more data than that, it's $20 a year, and that's just paying for the storage, and you get up to 2 gigabytes. So what happens if you want to do, let's say, for example, I have a whole project here and I want to do all of these in the same bib. I can go over here to the folder and I right click on it, create bibliography, and I want APA. Let's come to my practice paper. Oops, not that one. Let's come down. I'm just going to delete that. Oops. I already had that in the queue, so let me try that again. Oh, I have to hit OK. Let's get back into the paper. And there's the magic. It will automatically be alphabetized and in the correct order. And since I've already corrected these things ahead of time, it should be correct. But of course, before you turn anything in, please check it with a fine-tooth comb. Now, what about the cite and write feature? As you're organizing your paper, you can put citations in as you're writing. So for example, I have a paraphrased quote here. This is just an example, and I'm going to delete this. Oops, there we go. And what I would do, see how I have the Zotero on my document? It's because I have downloaded the plugin from the website, which is, again, go to the library page, use the subject guide, scroll down to Zotero, and there's instructions on one of those tabs on that page on how to do this. I'm going to add a citation. Now, I know that this is by Farmer, so I can pull up by the person's last name like this, and it's automatically there. Let's say, for example, that I don't know exactly everybody's last name, or I need to have a specific page number involved. What would that look like? So I'm going to take this one out. And I'm going to show you another way that you can add a citation. Use the little down arrow and go to Classic View, and you can find your right folder and say, I know it was Dewitt and Jones. And you can say, okay, this was on page 23, so you can add the page there and click OK. Now that whole citation is correct. What if you have named your author, like this one, Hickey and Chartrand, and you want to make sure to omit the name in the citation? How would you do that? Okay, so we would go up here and insert. I like to use the classic view, it's just easier for me. And I can use the search button up here. Oops, let's make sure that there it is. And it was on, let's say this is on page 32, but I am going to omit the author from the in-text citation. Right there, great. Now this was another example, so I'm going to delete this. Once you have finished writing your paper, you can come in and add the bibliography, and it will know, because it's coded it within the citations that you've already done and created the bibliography for you from the citations in your paper. The nice thing about doing this is that it keeps all. What if you delete something from your paper at some point, or you add additional items into your paper? All you have to do is refresh the document and your bibliography will be correct every time. That way you're not accidentally citing a source or leaving one out. When you have finished writing your paper, your dissertation thesis all the way, before you hand it in, I suggest you save a copy that has these citations mapped. And then before you hand it in, you unlink the citations. That just makes it easier for the people who are reviewing it, that they aren't jumping around in your document, or that it saves funny. And this will not interfere with Word's automatic formatting when you're using the, what do you call it? The, not the appendices, but the thing at the front of the paper. What is that called, Brooke?
Abstract.
Yeah, the abstract
Table of contents.
table of contents. Thank you. This will not mess up with the table of contents. So you can see how you can organize your project within Zotero itself. Remember, once you have an item, you can make sure all the fields are correct, and then you can save notes about each of the items. And if you want to, you don't have to use the cite and write feature. If you just use the software for gathering and organizing your results, that's going to save you a ton of time. Another quick tool, by the way, you can add things by hand. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to add in a book that I have. It's in print, it's in my hand, so I have the ISBN. I can use the magic wand right here and enter that ISBN. You don't have to use the dashes, and it will pull from the web the information about the book. You can also upload an item by hand by just creating it. Here you can add it by hand and put all the information in there if you need to. You can remove things from your area, and you can also pull in PDFs. So just one moment. I have a PDF that I pulled in. I'm going to put it right here. And it's going to try to read the metadata from that PDF, which it did. Now I have two of them because I went to the same place. So you can also add in items to your reference list. So I encourage you, I'm going to stop sharing now. So I encourage you to make an appointment with the library. especially with me and Ben, to go over Zotero. And if you're in the setting up phase or it's not working right, what are all the bells and whistles? How can I maximize this? We are happy to help you get that up and going for you because it will save you a ton of time. Any questions?
This has been extremely helpful. I've actually started using it already as a mentor guided me to it, but
Yay.
I've been adding everything by myself. So seeing how you can just automatically populate those sections for each resource is going to save me a lot of time.
Oh, good. I am so glad. Okay, so yeah, and Kelly, maybe you have not yet uploaded the browser component. So I encourage you, if you don't see that in that little button in your browser, and it works with Zotero or Firefox, Google Chrome. When you get to zotero.org, there are different plugins that you can use per browser.
Okay, yeah, I'll double check that. Thank you so much. This has
You're
been
welcome.
extremely helpful.
Oh, good. Brooke, do you have any additional questions?
I do not. I'm so glad it was helpful for Kelly and others. And Laura, we appreciate you. Thank you for helping us to streamline how our students can very easily keep
Yes.
records.
Yes, I wrote down
Amazing.
3 main benefits. It will save you time, it'll help you be more organized, and it makes the writing process, I think, easier. So
All of the above. It's amazing. Well, Laura, thank
great,
you
thank
for
you.
joining us again. We hope you have a great night. Those of you who are with us tonight, thank you for being here. And I will make this recording available to not only our guest speakers, but to the students who were here or who could not be here.
Great, thank you
I
so
wish
much.
you all a great and wonderful Monday night and hope to see you all again soon.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.